I'm Tina.
I'm Fern.
And I'm Kat.
And today I'm going to teach these two how to blow up a glove, but with a catch. So we are going to use yeast and sugar to blow up a glove. Have you guys ever done this before?
No. I have not.
So this is going to be a cool experiment. So for this activity, what you'll need from your box is the 2 sugar packets, 1 packet of yeast, a rubber band, a glove, and these are latex free. And then what you can get from home is a clear plastic water bottle, or this happens to be a soda bottle. And you're gonna wanna remove the cover from it so we can see what's happening on the inside, and you can get rid of the cap as well. I also rinse these ones out with water just so they're nice and clean on the inside. And you're gonna need a cup of warm water. And I grabbed some scissors just in case we wanted to open up the yeast or the sugar packets. All right, so to get started here, I'm gonna have you guys fill your bottles here about 1 inch with warm water.
How's that?
Let's go a little bit more. So the way I like to measure an inch is just kind of this tip of my thumb. So if I hold it here, I'd say just add a little bit more just so we have enough to activate the yeast. Looks pretty good, yeah? All right. And the reason the water is warm is because when yeast is dry and cool, it's not activated. So it's kind of in a resting state. So next we're gonna take the yeast packets and we're gonna dump the whole yeast packet in with the warm water. Some tips that I like to do is I like to cut just the tip of the packet off so that it's easy to pour in, or you can use a funnel, however you choose.
I'll cut the tip. Oh, I should have cut that.
Perfect. And once you add that, you're just going to take the bottle and you're going to swirl it around for about 5 seconds. Perfect. And swirl it around for about 5 seconds. And the reason we swirl it is because as the yeast dissolves in the water, it's going to activate the yeast and it's going to get ready. So what we need next is our sugar. So we're gonna add both of those sugar packets. These are about a teaspoon each, so if you have sugar at home and you wanna retry the experiment, I'd say 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar should work. Perfect. And we're gonna do the same thing and swirl it around for about 5 seconds. And the reason we add the sugar is because the sugar is the food for the yeast. So the yeast is actually very, very small microorganisms that are gonna eat the sugar. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna produce a gas after it eats the sugar. So next, we wanna take our glove and we're gonna cover up the top of the bottle, and you're gonna wanna secure it with a rubber band so that there's no air. And this step is a little bit tricky, so you might need some help with it. It took me a couple of tries the first time I did it. So if you're having trouble, definitely ask someone to come help you. And the goal here is to just seal it off so that no air gets in. So now would be a good time to pause your video, and we're gonna give these about 25 minutes. And so you can let yours sit for 25 minutes and then come on back and we'll talk about what happened. All right, so it's been about 30 minutes on our gloves, and it looks like they've been inflated, so that's a good sign. So if you notice, this one's actually inflated a little bit more than this one, and we're thinking that might be because this rubber band couldn't stretch around one more time. So what can happen is if it's a little bit loose and air is getting out, it's gonna let the gas that's produced get out too. So let's talk about why this happened, right? So we added yeast and we added sugar and we added the water to activate the yeast. So yeast is actually a living microorganism, which means it's micro. It's really, really small. We can't even see it. It's an organism, so it's alive. So what happens is the yeast eats the sugar and it feeds on it for energy. And when it eats the sugar, it releases carbon dioxide, and that's a gas that we actually find in the air here. But the problem with this is the gas doesn't have anywhere to go, right? We sealed it off nice and tight. So the carbon dioxide that's released, it fills up the bottle first, and then it goes right into the glove and it's gonna fill up the glove. So that's why it took a little bit of time, because the yeast was making that process happen and filling it up. But that's basically a bunch of carbon dioxide and air bubbles that's filling up this glove here. And the other thing is that we actually use yeast in bread. So if you've ever made bread, you know that you add the yeast first and usually you add some water to activate it. So what happens when you make bread is the yeast is gonna feed on the sugar. It's gonna make those carbon dioxide bubbles. And when it gets mixed with the flour, it actually spreads it out throughout the bread. So there's millions of tiny, tiny bubbles throughout the bread. When you put the bread in the oven, it bakes the bread, right? It heats it up, and that yeast actually dies, so it's no longer alive, but it still leaves all the carbon dioxide bubbles. And that's why bread is so fluffy and airy, because it has all those teeny tiny bubbles throughout it. So that's how yeast works, and that's how yeast feeds on sugar. So if you leave your bottle with your glove out for an hour or so, if it's like this, it might end up blowing up even more, but it'll actually stay blown up pretty much all day. So you can keep it around and show your parents, your family, your friends, and show them what you did. Good luck, and have fun trying this at home.